Welcome, dear friend, as we continue this quiet journey together. It is a comfort to have you here, resting with us in this shared stillness. Tonight, we open a gentle doorway into teachings long whispered by the wise ones of earlier ages, soft keys that invite the body into ease and the mind into deep, nourishing sleep. If it feels right, you may notice the hour and the place where you are listening, allowing yourself to arrive fully in this moment. We will wander through a rare gathering of heart-opening Zen stories and reflect on the quiet understanding they carry. Each teaching carries a subtle truth, meant not to instruct the intellect, but to gently loosen the grip of worry, restlessness, and the endless reaching for something more. These are not ordinary stories. They are living reflections, passed carefully through generations by those who learned the art of inner stillness. They remind us of something easily forgotten, that true peace is not a place we someday reach, but a way of being that can awaken softly within us. Tonight, you may feel these words settling naturally, like warm sand beneath still water. As the ancient stories unfold, a quiet shift may occur without effort. The sharp edges of the day begin to soften. The relentless motion of thought slows into a gentle stream. And without trying, you may drift toward clarity, then toward rest. So allow yourself to arrive now. Let the day fall away. Feel the weight of your body supported and at ease. Take one slow, unhurried breath in, and as you release it, give yourself permission to receive these timeless reflections, teachings that seem to find us precisely when we are ready. Let us begin with a story about discovering wisdom in the simplest of actions. High in the mountains surrounding an ancient monastery, autumn arrived in quiet splendor. At the center of the courtyard stood a great goko tree, its wide fan-shaped leaves turning a radiant gold. Each year, pilgrims traveled from distant villages just to witness this transformation, when the tree appeared to glow like living fire beneath the open sky. A young monk, newly ordained and eager to prove his understanding, noticed the elderly abbot sweeping beneath the tree each morning. Golden leaves fell endlessly, covering the stone paths almost as quickly as they were cleared. Certain he had discovered a flaw in this routine, the young monk approached his teacher. "Master," he said gently, gesturing toward the falling leaves, "why do you continue sweeping when the wind only brings more? Is this not wasted effort?" The abbot continued his steady motion, his hands guiding the broom with calm familiarity. He offered only a soft smile, saying nothing. The young monk felt sure his teacher simply had not understood the point being made. 1 week later, before dawn, a fierce storm swept through the mountains. The wind roared with uncommon force. When the monks emerged that morning, their hearts grew heavy. Every golden leaf had been torn from the goko tree, leaving its branches bare against the gray sky. The courtyard lay buried beneath a thick carpet of gold. The beauty they had cherished had ended suddenly. Many monks stood in silence, feeling the truth of impermanence settle within them. And there was the old abbot, broom in hand, already moving. He did not gather the leaves away, nor did he try to restore what had been lost. Instead, he swept gentle paths through the fallen gold, one to the meditation hall, one to the well, one to the temple gate. Each motion was slow and deliberate, transforming loss into quiet beauty. The courtyard became something new, a garden shaped by care rather than resistance. The young monk watched, understanding at last. His teacher had never been fighting the leaves. He had simply been meeting each moment as it arrived. Without words, The young monk took up another broom and joined him. The Buddha taught us not to accept teachings blindly, but to live what brings benefit and peace. Here, the lesson is simple and deep. Meaningful action is not defined by permanence. The sweeping was never about control. It was about presence. So often we organize, care, listen, and try again, knowing the task will return. The restless mind calls this futile. The awakened mind recognizes it as love in motion. Each moment attended to fully is complete in itself. As you consider tomorrow, may you meet it not with resistance, but with gentle care, sweeping quiet paths through your own golden leaves. And now, let us walk onward, toward a riverbank, where an elder seeks the stillness that seems to escape him. An aging village elder climbed the mountain path to Master Gazen's temple, carrying years of spiritual frustration. "My mind will not rest," he confessed. "When I sit, thoughts rush like a flood. I try to stop them, but they return stronger. How can I find peace?" Gazen listened like still water receiving rain. Then he rose and led the elder down to a clear mountain river. "Look closely," the master said. "Can you stop this river with your hands?" The elder shook his head. "I would only disturb the water," he replied. Gazen nodded softly. "Your mind is this river. Do not fight it. Sit on the bank. Watch." And as the elder listened, something within him finally grew quiet. From the quiet riverbank, Gazen continued in a calm, steady voice. "You can notice each thought as it appears and as it fades. See them gently without naming them good or bad. The concern about tomorrow's weather, the distant memory of your child's laughter long ago, the simple plan for a visit to the market next week, none of these are who you are. They are movements of the mind, nothing more. Allow them to arrive. Allow them to be known. Allow them to depart." The two men stood together beneath scattered sunlight, watching water glide endlessly over smooth stone. The elder became aware that his breathing had slowed on its own, quietly following the rhythm of the stream. "The stillness you are searching for," Gazen said softly, "is not found by stopping the river. It is found in your ability to witness its movement with complete balance. You are the aware presence from which thoughts arise, and to which they return. That presence is always unmoving, even when the waters are wild." The Buddha reminded us that peace is born within. It is not something to be found elsewhere. From this story emerges a misunderstanding that causes much unnecessary suffering on the spiritual path. We often imagine awakening as a state where the mind becomes empty and silent, like a motionless pond untouched by wind. And so we struggle against the natural activity of thought, believing that thinking itself is a failure. Zen wisdom points gently to a different truth. Our difficulty comes from mistaking ourselves for our thoughts, rather than recognizing ourselves as the awareness in which thoughts appear. We become like someone who believes they are the river itself, feeling responsible for every swirl and ripple, instead of knowing themselves as the open sky that allows all weather to pass. This confusion creates what Buddhist teaching calls the second arrow of suffering. The first arrow is simply the arising of thoughts and emotions. This is natural and unavoidable. The second arrow is our resistance, the belief that their presence means something has gone wrong. You may recognize this in your own practice. Perhaps thoughts arise saying, "I am not doing this correctly," or "I should be calmer by now." Each judgment is like trying to block the river with bare hands. The effort only creates more disturbance. Zen Master Dogen taught, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. When we observe thinking closely, we discover that thoughts have no solid shape. They rise from openness and dissolve back into openness, like waves forming briefly on the surface of the sea. The practice Gassen offers is sometimes called simple witnessing. There is no special method, no mantra to repeat, no image to hold. We rest as awareness itself, watching whatever appears. This is not dull observation, but bright, gentle attention, like watching clouds drift across a vast sky. The Buddha taught that the mind shapes our experience of the world, yet the deeper meaning is often overlooked. We do not become the content of our thoughts. We become entangled in the act of thinking. When we step back onto the riverbank, we rediscover our true nature as the unchanging presence that witnesses all change. From this place, our relationship to every experience transforms. Emotions rise and fall like passing weather. Sensations move and shift like currents beneath the surface. Even joy and sorrow are seen as visitors, not permanent homes. This practice brings immediate relief because it works with the mind as it is, rather than fighting against it. Instead of tension, there is softness. Instead of struggle, there is ease. Tonight, as thoughts from today or plans for tomorrow move gently through your awareness, can you remember the riverbank? Can you rest as the quiet presence that watches, with kindness and curiosity? As the Buddha taught, peace is not gained through comparison or grasping. It is revealed when striving relaxes. Now, let us turn toward another story, one that reveals sacred practice hidden within the most ordinary of tasks. Before he was known throughout the land as a great teacher, Sipo Gisasen served quietly as the head cook in Master Takujo's monastery. Each morning before dawn, he rose to prepare meals for the community. He measured precious supplies carefully, cooked simple nourishment, and kept the kitchen clean. The work was repetitive and demanding. Many monks believed kitchen duty distracted from true practice. But Sipo met each movement with full presence. One morning, as steam rose from a large pot of rice porridge, Master Takujo entered the kitchen. He watched as Sipo stirred slowly, his entire being devoted to the task. After a long silence, the master asked quietly, "Tell me, Sipo, what is it that you are stirring?" Without pausing, Sipo replied, "The vast ocean of the Dharma." "And what do you hold in your hands?" Sipo lifted the wooden spoon gently. "The dragon that stirs the depths." The master understood. Nothing more needed to be said. Years later, when asked how he attained awakening, Sipo answered simply, "My whole life has been this, stirring rice." The path, he knew, was never separate from the pot. The sacred was never elsewhere. And with this understanding, the night grows quieter and rest draws nearer. In many Asian spiritual traditions, the dragon symbolizes living wisdom in motion, the quiet intelligence that flows through all forms of life. When Sipo spoke of the spatula as the dragon that stirs the depths, he was not speaking in metaphor alone. He was recognizing that the same creative force that turns the stars across the night sky and calls spring flowers into bloom also moves through the simplest human gesture. A Zen teacher once said, "Every day is a good day." This does not mean every day is easy or pleasant. It means that each day, without exception, offers the same doorway into awakened presence. A day spent stirring rice holds the same possibility as a day spent in silent retreat. The Buddha taught that taking the first step on the path of liberation is greater than ruling over the entire world. And that first step is often taken not through distant rituals or rare techniques, but through complete attention to what is already before us. Pouring water becomes ceremony. Folding cloth becomes meditation. Listening to another becomes communion. With this understanding, spiritual life shifts. We stop chasing special experiences. We stop postponing awakening until conditions feel perfect. We discover that the path unfolds quietly beneath our feet, exactly where we stand. Dogen taught that practice and realization are one. The stirring of rice is both the method and the fulfillment. There is no distance between means and end, no separation between journey and arrival. Each mindful action is both cultivation and completion. Consider your own daily life. Whatever fills your hours, caring, calculating, serving, building, what would change if you approached these moments not by adding something sacred, but by recognizing the sacred nature already present within them? The great ocean Sipo perceived in his pot is the boundless field of awareness from which all experience arises. Every sensation, every thought, every interaction appears within this space and dissolves back into it. When this is seen, the kitchen becomes a temple. The tool becomes a sacred object. And the one who acts is both student and teacher. Tonight, as you move gently through your evening routine, can you sense the dragons stirring beneath your actions? Can you feel the vast ocean of awareness holding even the smallest movement? Perhaps brushing your teeth becomes an act of care. Perhaps preparing tomorrow's clothes becomes a quiet offering of kindness. The Buddha taught that our present actions shape both past and future. And in moments of full presence, we touch the same timeless truth that Sipo realized at the stove. Now let us turn to another story, one that reveals the delicate difference between pure experience and the mind's urge to claim it. Master Fajin once walked mountain paths with one of his most senior students. The monk was learned and disciplined, well-versed in teachings and texts. The air was cool and clear. Pine trees swayed softly overhead. Their footsteps formed a gentle rhythm on the needle-covered ground. The forest held a deep silence, the kind that reminds us we are visitors here. Suddenly, a small bird alighted on a bamboo stalk nearby. Without fear, it released a song of astonishing beauty. The sound flowed through the valley, clear and effortless. Time seemed to pause until the final note faded and the bird vanished into the trees. The silence that followed felt richer than before. The monk turned to his teacher, eyes shining. "What the profound teaching," he said. "That song spoke of impermanence and natural harmony." The master waited, then asked softly, "Tell me, who heard the teaching?" The monk began to answer, then stopped. In that moment, understanding shifted. During the song, there had been no listener apart from sound. No sermon separate from hearing. Only pure experiencing. The interpretation had come later. The monk bowed deeply. The Buddha taught us to look beyond what is merely heard and live what brings freedom. This story reveals how quickly the mind leaves immediacy to build explanations. The ego feels uneasy when it cannot place itself at the center. So it names, claims, and interprets. We see this every day. A sunset appears, and immediately the mind speaks. A sound arises and commentary follows. Zen practice invites us back to first mind, the awareness before thought. In hearing, there is only hearing. In seeing, only seeing. Tonight, as sounds arise around you, the quiet house, distant movement, the breath itself, can you rest in experience without ownership? This is the pathless path back to what was never lost. And now, we turn toward a final teaching, a reminder that the greatest treasure requires no seeking. A learned priest once traveled far to challenge the Zen master Bankai. He criticized the teaching of the unborn mind, claiming it lacked method and effort. Bankai listened calmly. Then he asked the priest to step closer and closer still. He pointed gently to sound, to sight, to sensation. When you hear, Bankai asked, do you need effort to hear? The priest fell silent. That which hears, sees, and knows, Bankai said softly, has always been present. And in that quiet moment, something unnecessary finally fell away. When you studied sacred texts in your youth, Bankai continued gently, it was this awareness that understood their meaning. When you traveled here today, carrying doubts and concerns, it was this same awareness that perceived every sound, every face, every step along the road. The priest felt his breath pause as understanding quietly opened. You have been searching for what you have never lacked, Bankai said softly. You have tried to cleanse what is already pure by its very nature. The treasure you hope to find in some distant paradise is the very knowing through which you search for it. The visiting priest stood without words. The foundation of his effort-filled practice seemed to loosen and gently dissolve, not through argument, but through the undeniable clarity of direct experience. Ancient Buddhist wisdom says, if you meet the Buddha on the road, let him go. Here we encounter the simplicity that dissolves endless seeking. So often, we spend years chasing what has never been absent, overlooking the obvious while pursuing the extraordinary. Why is it so difficult to recognize our own true nature? Zen teaching points to deep conditioning. We are taught that value must be earned, that truth must be complex, that awakening must require great effort. It feels impossible to believe that what we long for most is closer than our own breath. The mind that seeks awakening is like someone searching for their glasses while already wearing them. The one who feels incomplete is the very completeness being sought. Consider your own spiritual striving. How much energy goes into collecting insights, perfecting methods, measuring progress? What would remain if you stopped trying to improve awareness and simply recognized the awareness already here? The priest's training emphasized purification and accumulation. Bankai's teaching revealed something quieter. Our essential nature does not need repair. It needs recognition. This does not dismiss practice. It transforms it. Practice becomes remembering, not acquiring. Resting, not striving. We sit not to become enlightened, but to rest as what is already awake. A Zen master once said, there is nothing special to do. When tired, sleep. When hungry, eat. The unborn mind moves effortlessly through the simplest acts. The Buddha taught, look within. You are the Buddha. Not as encouragement, but as description. The awareness reading these words, the awareness noticing breath and thought, this is Buddha nature itself. When the priest heard the distant dog, there was no gap between sound and hearing. When he saw the students' faces, there was no separation between seeing and seen. In these moments, seeking fell away, and experience became whole. This recognition brings deep relief. The exhausting project of self-improvement can rest. We can stop trying to earn peace. What we are right now is already enough. Tonight, as thoughts rise and fade, can you notice the still space in which they appear? That space is not something you own. It is what you are. The Buddha taught that you deserve your own kindness. That kindness begins with recognizing the sacredness of your present awareness. Now let us continue with a story of wisdom discovered through childlike simplicity. There once lived a man known as Great Fool. In his youth, he was a respected scholar, wealthy, educated, admired. Distressed by what he believed was a loss of sacred values, he gave away everything he inherited, renounced status and security, and set out to discover what truly matters. He named himself Great Fool and wandered with nothing but sincerity. After many years of practice and travel, he returned home, living in a humble hut, owning a single bowl that served every purpose. To the world, he appeared poor, but children loved him. They sensed his honesty. He played with them, laughed with them, and trusted their world completely. Once, during a game of hide and seek, he hid so well that the children forgot him. He remained hidden until nightfall, untroubled, faithful to the game. When asked why he loved children, he replied, "They are genuine." Great Fool taught that sophistication often obscures truth. When skill becomes performance, life loses its freshness. Children act without calculation. They have not learned to perform themselves. Their simplicity is not ignorance. It is wisdom unburdened. The single bowl symbolizes this wholeness. One heart meets all situations. His patience revealed deep trust in life as it unfolds. Tonight, notice where you performed today and where you simply were. Can you sense the difference? The Buddha taught that seeing one flower clearly can transform a life. Not through complexity, but through direct presence. And now, let us turn to a final story, one about uncertainty and the quiet wisdom of not knowing. In a remote valley, an old farmer lived with his son. They owned little, except one strong horse. One morning, the horse was gone. Neighbors arrived with sympathy. "How terrible," they said. The farmer listened calmly and replied, "How do you know?" And so the story begins. As the night deepens, rest draws nearer, and understanding settles like soft earth around the heart. The dawn that follows carries with it a quiet surprise. The missing horse returns to the farm, but not alone. Moving slowly across the morning mist is a small group of wild horses, strong and untamed, who have chosen to follow the familiar presence of the domestic animal back to the valley. Their breath rises softly in the cool air, their hooves touch the earth without urgency. The farmer and his son work together in silence, building simple fencing to guide and contain this unexpected arrival. Their movements are steady, without excitement or fear. Word spreads quickly, and soon the same neighbors who once spoke of disaster arrive again, their faces now filled with delight. "What remarkable fortune," they say. "One horse has become many. This is extraordinary luck." They smile, imagining abundance and security. The old farmer listens, his hands resting lightly at his sides. After a moment, he asks, just as before, "How do you know this is good luck?" The neighbors hesitate, unsure how to respond. The next day unfolds with equal quietness. The farmer's son begins working with one of the wild horses, hoping to train it for riding. The animal, unaccustomed to human touch, resists with sudden force. In a brief, violent moment, the young man is thrown to the ground. Pain flashes through his body, and his leg is broken badly enough that he cannot stand without help. Again, the neighbors gather, their voices lower. "How unfortunate," they say. "Such terrible luck, just when things seem to improve." The farmer tends to his son with care, wrapping the injury, offering water, remaining fully present. When the neighbors finish speaking, he looks up and says quietly, "How do you know this is bad luck?" Only a few days pass before the answer reveals itself. Soldiers arrive in the valley with orders to take every able-bodied young man to fight in a distant and dangerous war. Many will never return. One by one, families watch their sons leave. When the officers examine the farmer's son, his injured leg makes him unfit for service. He remains at home, alive. The Buddha taught that what we call misfortune may become a blessing, and what we call blessing may reveal hidden cost. This story reminds us how limited our judgments truly are. Why do we rush to decide whether life is favoring or punishing us when the full story has not yet unfolded? The mind seeks certainty because uncertainty feels unsafe. We want to name things quickly, good or bad, so we know how to feel. But this habit brings only temporary comfort. The farmer's gentle question, "How do you know?" points toward what Zen calls not knowing mind. This is not confusion. It is wisdom that remains open. It understands that life is too interconnected to be captured by immediate conclusions. Many moments in your own life may have changed meaning over time. A door that closed became a path you never expected. A loss created space for growth. Pain revealed what truly mattered. The farmer does not deny emotion. He feels concern, relief, responsibility. But he does not build stories about destiny or blame. He meets each moment as it arrives. This is equanimity, not indifference, but steady presence. Not surrender, but trust in the unfolding process of life itself. Tonight, as you lie quietly, notice where you may be clinging to judgments about recent events. Perhaps peace does not come from controlling outcomes, but from responding wisely to whatever appears. Everything changes, even our understanding of what change means. As we move deeper into Zen wisdom, we encounter a teaching about the foundation of learning itself. In the quiet reception room of a Zen monastery, afternoon light filters through paper screens. A young scholar arrives, carrying years of study, memorized teachings, and carefully formed opinions. His mind is full. He believes he is ready. The Zen master welcomes him kindly and prepares tea without explanation. Each movement is slow, attentive, complete. The scholar watches with impatience, waiting for instruction worthy of his effort. The master pours the tea. The cup fills. The tea overflows. Still, the master pours. At last, the scholar speaks. The cup is full. It cannot hold more. The master sets down the teapot and meets his gaze. "Your mind is the same," he says softly. "When it is full, nothing new can enter." Beginner's mind is not ignorance. It is courage. It is humility. It is the willingness to meet each moment without knowing. When we empty the cup of assumptions, awareness becomes clear again. And finally, we turn to a story of generosity beyond loss. Master Ryoan lived in a small mountain hut with almost nothing. One night, a thief entered, searching for valuables, and found none. From the darkness, the master spoke gently. "Take this," he said, offering his only blanket. The thief left carrying what could be held. The master remained, gazing at the moon framed in the window. The moon was untouched. Some things cannot be taken, and it is toward that quiet truth that we now rest and drift into sleep. Master Ryoan's response to the thief reveals a mind that understood true wealth in a way the world rarely teaches. He knew that abundance does not arise from what we gather and protect, but from our ability to give freely, to care deeply, and to recognize beauty without needing to own it. His instinct was not to defend himself, nor to feel wronged, but to notice the needs standing before him. Instead of seeing an enemy, he saw a human being lacking something essential. His simplicity did not make him fearful. It made him generous. Where others might feel diminished, he felt expanded. Where anger might arise, compassion flowed naturally. Why is it that we usually meet loss with outrage, intrusion with blame, and threat with hardness? This response often grows from the belief that our possessions define our safety and our worth. When something is taken, we feel as though a part of ourselves has been removed. But Ryoan lived from a different understanding. He did not see objects as extensions of identity, but as temporary tools entrusted to his care. His poem about the moon carries the heart of this teaching. The thief could remove cloth and fabric, but he could not touch the master's sense of wonder, his quiet joy, or his capacity to behold beauty. These inner treasures remain untouched by circumstance. Peace, appreciation, and gentle awareness cannot be stolen. The moon shining through the window becomes a symbol of everything freely offered by life itself. Beauty that belongs to no one. Mystery that cannot be owned. Wealth that grows when shared rather than shrinks. The thief departed with something that would eventually fade and fray. The master remained with a joy that had no edges and no end. This story gently points to the difference between having and being. What we have must be guarded. What we are deepens through expression. Possessions create vigilance. Presence creates ease. The qualities Ryoan embodied, calm, generosity, reverence, strengthen each time they are lived. When something is taken from us, where does our attention rest? On what has vanished, or on the way we choose to respond? Even moments of loss may become invitations to practice wisdom rather than resistance. True security, this story reminds us, does not arise from locks or accumulation. It grows from inner abundance. Ryoan felt safe because nothing essential to his happiness could be removed. Zen practice cultivates this non-possessive appreciation, the ability to enjoy without clinging, to love without grasping, to witness beauty without attempting to capture it. When we can enjoy the moon without owning it, we touch a wealth that no economy can threaten. Many assume that simplicity must feel like deprivation. Yet Ryoan's life suggests the opposite. As attachment loosens, access to what truly nourishes us expands. His poverty became a doorway, not a limitation. His generosity was not despite having little, but because he was free. The thief, met with kindness rather than hostility, may have encountered something that quietly unsettled his understanding of the world. Such moments plant seeds that awaken slowly, long after words have faded. Unexpected responses carry transformative power. By answering harm with openness, Ryoan created a moment that held the potential to shift another human heart. Tonight, as you consider what you fear losing, notice the difference between what can be taken and what remains untouched. Awareness, kindness, presence, these do not depend on circumstance. They deepen through sharing. As the Buddha taught, In the end, only a few things truly matter: how we live, how we love, and how gently we learn to let go. The moon in the window still shines for anyone willing to release grasping and remain open to wonder. And now, we turn toward a teaching about the nature of emotion itself. In a quiet monastery where blossoms drifted softly across stone paths, a troubled man approached the Zen master Bankai. His body carried years of tension. His voice held exhaustion. "Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I suffer from a terrible temper. It erupts without warning and ruins my peace. I have tried to suppress it, but nothing works. Can you cure me?" Bankai listened with complete attention, his gaze steady and kind. "This temper you speak of," the master said gently, "I would like to see it. Show it to me now, and I will heal it at once." The man searched within himself. In that quiet moment, anger was nowhere to be found. "I cannot," he admitted. "It is not here right now." Bankai smiled softly. "Then how can it be your true nature? If it were who you are, it would never leave you." Understanding opened like a window. The man saw that anger was not permanent. It arose and passed. Emotions visit. They do not define. We mistake patterns for identity. We say "I am angry" instead of "anger is appearing." This belief feels protective, but it binds us. Between reactions lies a pause. In that space, awareness rests untouched. Tonight, as emotions rise and fall, notice what remains. You are not the storm. You are the sky that allows it to pass. And now, let us rest with a final image of simplicity. High in the mountains lived a monk known only as the Stone Robe. He owned nothing, not even clothing. On cold nights, he carried a heavy stone around his hut until warmth filled his body. What others would call hardship, he transformed into practice. The stone became warmth. The cold became teacher. When he vanished, the stone remained, resting quietly before the empty hut. A silent reminder: contentment does not depend on what we possess, but on how we meet what is here. And with that understanding, the breath slows, the mind softens, and rest arrives naturally. So often, suffering arises not from what is missing, but from resentment toward what we believe we lack. We measure our lives against the lives of others, comparing comfort, success, and circumstance, forgetting that peace does not grow from comparison. Voluntary simplicity, even when life feels limited, begins with acceptance. Not resignation, but a gentle willingness to meet reality as it is and respond creatively rather than complain. This is the heart of the Stone Robe monk's teaching. The stone he carried was not merely weight. It was what Zen calls skillful means, the wisdom that appears when resistance ends. Instead of lamenting the absence of a robe, he discovered warmth through movement. Instead of seeing the stone as a burden, he recognized it as a resource. This is the quiet intelligence of acceptance. When we stop arguing with life, our energy is freed. No longer consumed by frustration or self-pity, it naturally turns towards simple, workable solutions. Consider the stones in your own life, the limits you resist, the inconveniences you replay in your mind. What might change if you approach them not as enemies to defeat, but as raw material for adaptation? A traffic jam may become a space for breathing. A small room may reveal the ease of owning less. A delay may offer rest rather than irritation. Zen Master Dogen taught that to study the Buddha way is to study the self, And to study the self is to forget the self. The stone-robed monk lived this forgetting. So fully present to each moment's need, he had no energy left for comparison or complaint. His contentment did not come from having life arranged perfectly. It arose from meeting life creatively, moment by moment. His quiet disappearance adds depth to the teaching. He left no writings, gathered no students, established no legacy. Yet the stone remains, resting before the empty hut, inviting anyone who encounters it to reflect on the possibility of deep contentment within extreme simplicity. Tonight, as you rest within whatever comfort or discomfort surrounds you, can you sense this same spirit? Can you feel warmth arising not from acquiring more, but from fully inhabiting what is already here? As the Buddha taught, very little is required for a happy life. It is found not outside, but within the way we meet each moment. The stone waits patiently, reminding us that true wealth lies in creative acceptance. And now, we turn to a story of grace born at the edge of despair. For many years, a sincere monk named Chosha traveled long distances to study under the great master Hakuin. Each journey required days of walking through mountain passes, his straw sandals worn thin against stone and earth. Year after year, he practiced with devotion. He sat for long hours. He studied diligently, yet no breakthrough came. He watched others awaken while he remained unchanged. Hope slowly turned into quiet despair. After one retreat, Master Hakuin called him aside and spoke sharply. "You come each year making great effort, yet gain nothing. You are wasting your time and mine. Do not return." The words struck deeply. Ashamed, yet determined, Chosha left the monastery believing this would be his final effort. "If I do not awaken," he thought, "I will not return alive." He found an abandoned fishing shed near the sea and sat down in meditation. For 7 days and nights, he neither ate nor slept. His body weakened, his mind blurred. On the 8th morning, nothing had changed. All effort had failed. With nothing left, he walked into the rising tide, preparing to end his life. As the sun rose, light spread across the water, dissolving sea and sky into a single radiance. In that moment, completely emptied of hope and striving, Chosha let go. And in letting go, awakening occurred. Zen teaches that realization does not come through force, but through surrender. The grasping mind blocks what is already present. Chosha's struggle reveals how even spiritual practice can become another form of achievement. When we measure progress, compare ourselves, or strive for attainment, we turn awakening into an object. Only when all strategies fail does true openness appear. Tonight, can you rest without trying to become anything? Can you allow yourself to be exactly as you are? As the Buddha taught, when nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. And now we move into a teaching about flowing with natural forces. Master Ryokan's mountain hut was small and humble, built without concern for permanence. One spring, bamboo shoots began rising beneath the floor, pushing upward toward light. Most would see this as a problem. Ryokan saw an invitation. He removed sections of the floor, allowing the bamboo to grow. When the shoots reached the roof, he opened the roof as well. Soon, living bamboo passed through his hut, joining earth and sky within his dwelling. He sat beneath it in meditation, listening to the wind move through leaves, watching shadows shift across the walls. Rather than resisting nature, he lived with it. The bamboo became his teacher, showing how yielding allows life to move freely and how harmony arises when we stop standing in the way. As the night deepens, may your mind soften like bamboo, flexible, open, and at rest within the quiet flow of things. What first appeared as a troubling disruption was gently transformed, through his openness to natural movement, into a quiet enrichment of his mountain life. As the Buddha reminded us, all conditioned things are in constant change. Nothing remains fixed, and nothing can be held forever. This truth invites us to soften our grip and learn how to move with life, rather than standing rigidly against its unfolding. This ancient insight speaks directly to how we respond when change enters our carefully arranged lives. Much of our energy is spent building structures, homes, routines, identities, relationships, careers, and once they are formed, we defend them fiercely. Any force that threatens to alter them feels like danger. We call change a disturbance, a failure, or a loss, rather than recognizing it as a doorway into new possibilities not yet imagined. Master Ryoan responded in a different way. He did not see the bamboo as an enemy invading his shelter. He saw it as life expressing itself, quietly and persistently, seeking space to grow. By honoring that movement instead of opposing it, his dwelling became more alive, more dynamic, and more intimate with nature than it had ever been before. Why do we so often resist growth and transformation, even when they might improve our lives? Much of this resistance arises from our attachment to certainty. Predictability feels safe, while organic change feels threatening. We choose familiar limitations over the unknown, even when the unknown carries the seeds of renewal. The Master's willingness to lift floorboards and open his roof reflects the deep flexibility cultivated by sincere practice. Rather than guarding his comfort at all costs, he trusted that something workable, and perhaps even beautiful, could emerge through cooperation with forces beyond his control. This story teaches us the difference between accommodation and resignation. Ryoan did not simply endure whatever happened. He participated fully, responding with care and creativity. His actions respected both his own needs and the needs of the bamboo. In this way, his practice was neither passive nor forceful, but harmoniously engaged. We encounter similar invitations throughout our lives. A parent adjusts when a child grows in unexpected directions. A livelihood changes as conditions shift. A life plan dissolves, making space for a path that could not have been envisioned before. Zen practice nurtures what we might call adaptive wisdom, the capacity to respond creatively to what arises, instead of clinging to what was. To sit beneath living bamboo that grows through one's shelter is to live in rhythm with impermanence. The Master did not separate spiritual practice from daily life. Instead, he allowed natural processes to deepen his awareness. The bamboo became a teacher, reminding him of seasons, movement, and quiet resilience. What we first name as problems often contain hidden opportunities. The bamboo threatened destruction, yet through openness, it became an enhancement. Whether a challenge becomes suffering or growth often depends on how we meet it. We often believe that peace requires controlled conditions, free from intrusion. Yet this story suggests the opposite. True stability may arise from learning to remain centered while allowing life to move freely around us. When we loosen rigid boundaries, we may discover more integrated ways of living. There is also a quiet teaching here about creativity. When we stop fighting what wants to happen and instead ask how we might work with it, something new can emerge. something neither force nor passivity could create alone. Tonight, as you rest, consider where change may be pressing gently against the walls of your life. Is there a place where resistance could soften into cooperation? What floorboards might you lift, not in surrender, but in trust, allowing life to breathe more freely through you? The Buddha spoke of finding joy in water, strength in mountains, and wisdom in forests. When we learn to live in harmony with natural forces, rather than in constant opposition, we discover a deeper kind of security, a peace that flows instead of fights. Our next story reveals how true effort sometimes appears only when we release fixed ideas about purpose. In an ancient mountain monastery in China, two devoted students, Puk and Mook, served their teacher with unwavering sincerity. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the open windows, the master summoned them. In his hands, he held a simple wicker basket, woven for carrying dry goods, never meant to hold water. With a faint smile, he spoke. "I am thirsty. Please go to the river and bring me water with this basket." The students bowed. Though puzzled, they did not question his words. Carrying the basket together, they walked down the winding path to the river, where clear water rushed softly over smooth stones. They dipped the basket into the current. As expected, the water slipped away instantly, leaving it empty. They tried again, moving faster, lifting carefully, adjusting their grip. Still, the basket held nothing. Hour after hour passed. They covered the basket with their robes, coordinated their movements, and carried it together with great care. Each attempt ended the same way: empty hands, tired bodies, and growing frustration. Yet they continued, driven by devotion and by the mystery of the task itself. As afternoon light softened, they returned to the monastery, hearts heavy, basket empty. Puk spoke quietly, "Master, we have tried everything. The basket cannot hold water." The master examined the basket, running his fingers along its clean bamboo strips. He smiled. "Wonderful," he said. "It has never been so clean. If I had asked you to wash it, you would have rinsed it quickly. But by trying to carry water, you cleansed every corner." Effort purified what intention alone could not. The Buddha taught that happiness depends not on what we possess, but on how we perceive. This story reveals the difference between mechanical action and wholehearted presence. Why do we withhold our full attention from ordinary tasks? Zen teaches that the ego ranks experiences, granting value only to what promises reward or recognition. We rush through simple duties, saving our energy for what we believe matters more. Yet when the mind releases its judgments, every act becomes complete in itself. Our awareness no longer asks whether something is worthy. It simply arrives, fully, quietly, and without division. Now, as you drift toward rest, allow effort to soften into presence. Nothing needs to be achieved. Nothing needs to be held. Just as you are, this moment is already enough. Cleaning turns into burden when the mind is fixed only on having a spotless room. Movement becomes exhausting when it is reduced to chasing results. Preparing food feels hurried when it is treated merely as a task to be finished. In each of these moments, something subtle is lost. The quiet satisfaction that lives inside full attention disappears when we rush past the act itself. The Buddha taught that skillful action flows naturally when awareness is complete. Right action does not need to be forced. It arises on its own when the heart and mind are fully present. Puk and Mook touched this truth without intending to. Their wish to fulfill their teacher's request carried them beyond routine effort. In trying to solve the puzzle, they brought care, patience, and creativity to each movement. Without realizing it, they cleaned the basket completely. An old Zen saying reminds us, nothing special is required. Live simply. When hungry, when tired, sleep. This simplicity does not mean indifference. It points to a life where every act receives the same quiet presence. The sacred does not hide in rare moments. It reveals itself when ordinary actions are met with uncommon awareness. Imagine how daily tasks might change if approached as practice. Washing dishes could become a meditation on transience, each bubble appearing and dissolving. Tidying a room could become an exercise in gentle order and care. Cooking could become an offering, only of nourishment, but of attention itself. When awareness is steady, even the simplest task becomes complete. There is a deeper pattern here. When we chase outcomes directly, the mind tightens. Effort becomes strained. But when we serve a challenge or give ourselves to the act itself, our natural abilities emerge more freely. Presence replaces pressure. Tonight, as you move through moments your mind labels as unimportant, you might try offering them the same care you would give something precious. You may discover that the quality of attention you bring to any moment determines how deeply it nourishes you. The Buddha said that our present actions shape both our past and our future. Each small act becomes a quiet teacher. Every simple task is an opportunity to practice the presence that forms your character and colors your experience of being alive. Now, let us continue with a story that speaks to the limits of intellect and the humility required for true understanding. There once lived a learned Zen priest named Taigu. He had devoted many years to study, memorizing sacred texts, refining meditation techniques, and earning a reputation for insight. When the position of abbot opened at a respected temple, the community chose him with confidence. Taigu accepted, believing his long preparation had made him ready to guide others. Not long after, a woman from the nearby village came to the temple. Her face carried the unmistakable weight of loss. She bowed deeply before the new abbot, her voice trembling. "Revered teacher," she said, "my child has died. My heart is broken. Please tell me where my child has gone. I need to know." Taigu fell silent. His mind searched through everything he had learned, teachings on impermanence, rebirth, and the cycles of existence. He knew the words. He could recite the doctrines. Yet standing before this mother's raw grief, his knowledge felt distant and thin. Her pain was immediate. His understanding remained abstract. He opened his mouth, but no answer came. How could concepts reach a heart shattered by loss? The woman waited, her eyes full of hope. Still, Taigu remained silent. In that moment, he saw clearly that all his learning had not prepared him for this simple human question. At last, the woman bowed again and slowly walked away, her quiet sobs echoing through the hall. Taigu remained alone, surrounded by the weight of his own realization. That night, he sat without comfort. The certainty he once held dissolved. "I believed I understood the deepest truths," he whispered. "Yet I could not offer even a moment of genuine comfort." By morning his path was clear. Taigu laid aside his robes, left his position, and departed the temple to seek a deeper understanding of compassion. The Buddha taught that patience is the greatest prayer. Sometimes humility is the doorway wisdom must pass through. This story reveals the difference between knowledge stored in the mind and wisdom embodied in the heart. Understanding that cannot meet suffering with presence offers little help. Why do we so easily confuse information with realization? Zen teaches that the mind enjoys collecting ideas. We gather spiritual concepts as symbols of progress, while their deeper meaning remains untouched. This creates an illusion of advancement without transformation. We may also fall into premature certainty, believing that because we can explain truth, we have lived it. Like reading about water without ever entering the river. Titles and recognition can deepen this illusion, encouraging us to believe our reputation rather than continue our practice. Placed in a role where answers were expected, Taigu could no longer admit what he did not know. The grieving mother did not need philosophy. She needed presence. Compassion, not explanation. This does not dismiss the value of study. Teachings are maps, not destinations. They point toward experience, but they cannot replace it. As you rest now, allow the mind to loosen its grip on knowing. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be proven. Just this breath. Just this moment. Quiet, complete, and enough. When we confuse the map with the land itself, we wander in ideas while the heart remains unanswered. Some questions do not open through explanation. The question of loss, of where a loved one has gone, cannot be settled by teachings alone. It calls for a depth that grows only when we meet our own sorrow, remain with our own grief, and learn how to stay present with pain without trying to repair or justify it. Taiga's choice to step away from his role was not failure. It was courage. Instead of protecting an image or offering empty reassurance, he honored the truth of his limitation. In that honesty, real learning could begin. Had he clung to certainty, he would have remained enclosed within a spiritual mask. The Buddha reminded his students to question deeply and discover their own light. True wisdom does not arise from having answers, but from being willing to remain open within the mystery. Sometimes the most compassionate response is not a solution, but companionship. Sitting beside another in silence can carry more truth than any explanation. This quiet presence speaks directly to the heart. As you rest now, you might gently notice the difference between what you know with your mind and what you understand with your being. Where might ideas be standing in place of lived insight? What would it feel like to approach life's deepest questions with humility rather than certainty? The Buddha taught that mastering oneself is greater than conquering many battles. Letting go of false knowing clears the way for genuine wisdom. Now, let us continue with a story about expectations and the freedom found in simplicity. In the garden of a small Zen temple, morning light drifts softly through bamboo leaves. Master Bank moves slowly among the vegetables, tending the soil with steady hands. His clothing is plain, his movements quiet. Nothing about him draws attention. He works as any gardener might, pulling weeds, loosening earth, breathing with the rhythm of the day. A traveler arrives at the temple gates, his heart full of anticipation. He has journeyed far, drawn by stories of a great teacher said to dwell here. In his mind, wisdom must appear radiant, unmistakable, set apart from ordinary life. Seeing the gardener at work, he bows politely and asks where the revered master can be found. Bank looks up, smiles gently, and points toward the temple hall. The seeker thanks him and walks on, his steps quick with excitement. Inside, he finds the same man seated quietly in the teaching place. Confusion rises. How could this be? Surely a true master would not soil his hands with garden work. Anger follows confusion. The seeker accuses the man of mockery, of disrespect, of pretending to be something he is not. Without defense, Bank stands and calmly sits on the floor. Now, he says softly, you will not find a Zen master in the chair. The Buddha taught that when you meet the Buddha on the road, let him go. The lesson is not destruction, but release. What we seek is often hidden by the image we expect it to wear. We struggle to recognize wisdom when it does not fit our ideas. The mind imagines awakening as something extraordinary, separate from daily life. This belief divides sacred from ordinary, creating distance where none exists. Awakening does not remove our humanity. It reveals its depth. The seeker could not accept what his eyes showed him because his expectations were stronger than his perception. He searched for something special and missed what was complete. Master Bank showed that true authority rests not in roles or appearances, but in presence. Whether tending plants or offering teachings, he remained the same. Zen calls this nothing special, not meaning ordinary as dull, but ordinary as whole. Enlightenment adds nothing. It removes illusion. How often might wisdom speak to you through simple moments? Through a child's words, a quiet task, a passing thought while doing something routine. How many teachers go unnoticed because they arrive without ceremony? The Buddha taught that the awakened nature is already within. It waits beneath the stories we tell ourselves about what awakening should look like. True practice is not about becoming exceptional. It is about being fully here. Pulling weeds with care can be as sacred as sitting in meditation. Presence makes no distinction. As you settle into rest, you might loosen your expectations. Wisdom may already be near, disguised as something simple, something familiar, something quietly complete. Now, let us turn to a teaching about grasping and the subtle traps we create for ourselves. In warm forests where palm leaves sway and monkeys leap through branches, hunters once used a simple method to catch them. A coconut was hollowed with a small opening, just wide enough for a hand to enter. Inside, a handful of fragrant rice was placed. A monkey would reach in, curl its fingers around the rice, and find itself unable to withdraw its clenched fist. Freedom was available at any moment. All it had to do was release its grip. Yet it would pull and strain, refusing to let go of what it desired. The trap worked not through force, but through attachment. The Buddha said that we lose only what we cling to. This story mirrors our own lives. What we grasp, believing it will sustain us, can quietly become what confines us. We hold tightly to identities, to memories, to opinions, to achievements, even to spiritual insights. We believe safety lies in holding on. Yet often, release is the doorway to freedom. Like the monkey, we struggle not because escape is impossible, but because letting go feels unthinkable. As you rest now, there is nothing to release, nothing to solve. Just notice the gentle opening of the hand, the easing of effort, the quiet freedom that arrives when nothing is being held. Breathe, and let the night hold you. The rice in the coconut symbolizes all the things we persuade ourselves we cannot survive without. It may be a familiar way of living, a role we have grown used to wearing, a certain level of comfort, or even a fixed idea of how our spiritual path must unfold. Like the monkey, we often fail to see that freedom arrives the moment the hand relaxes. A Zen teacher once said that nothing essential is gained by adding more, and nothing essential is lost by releasing what no longer serves. This gentle truth reminds us that our deepest nature is not improved by possession, nor diminished by letting go. The monkey does not become more complete by holding rice, yet its conditioning turns release into something frightening, something that feels like loss instead of relief. You might quietly reflect on the coconut traps in your own life. What are you holding so tightly that it limits your movement? Perhaps it is a position that offers security but no longer brings peace. Perhaps it is a resentment that feels justified but quietly exhausts your heart. Or it may be an image of who you once needed to be, which now restricts who you are becoming. Letting go does not mean indifference. It means holding life gently, the way water rests in open hands rather than ice clenched in a fist. When we stop gripping outcomes, we often discover that what we truly need arrives with less struggle. A Zen teacher once observed that suffering increases when we confuse our ideas about life with life itself. The monkey cannot nourish itself on the idea of rice, yet it trades freedom for the illusion of possession. In the same way, we often exchange peace for mental constructs that exist mostly in thought. As you rest now, you may notice the quiet places where your mind insists something cannot be released. What happens if, just for this moment, you allow the hand to open? You may find that letting go is not an act of loss, but an experience of lightness. The Buddha reminded us that, in the end, only a few things truly matter: how gently we have lived, how deeply we have loved, and how completely we have learned to let go. The coconut trap teaches that strength is sometimes found not in holding on, but in knowing when to release. Now, let us move into a story of grief shared by all beings, and the wisdom that transforms isolation into understanding. In a small village shaped by the rhythms of birth and death, a young mother encounters a sorrow beyond words. Her child, still new to walking and laughter, is taken suddenly by illness before any help can arrive. In a single night, her world collapses from the warmth of care into the unbearable stillness of loss. Unable to accept this ending, she wraps her child in cloth and begins a desperate journey. She has heard of a teacher whose compassion knows no limits, whose insight reaches beyond ordinary boundaries. Surely, she believes, if anyone can reverse this moment, it would be him. She finds the Buddha seated beneath a great tree, surrounded by those seeking guidance. Without hesitation, she steps forward and places her child gently before him. Her voice trembles with grief, yet carries unwavering hope. She asks him to return her child to life, believing that without her son, nothing remains. The Buddha looks upon her with deep tenderness, seeing not only her pain, but the shared suffering of all beings who love and lose. He does not dismiss her, nor does he offer empty comfort. Instead, he speaks softly. "I will help you," he says. "But first, bring me a single mustard seed from a home where no one has ever known death." Hope flickers alive. Mustard seeds are everywhere. She lifts her child and begins her search, heart renewed. At the first house, the family is eager to help. But when she asks whether death has ever visited their home, their faces soften with recognition. They speak of a grandmother, a brother, memories still tender. She bows and moves on. From house to house she goes, asking the same question, hearing the same answer. Everywhere she turns, loss has already passed through. No home is untouched. No family is spared. And slowly, something within her begins to change. She is no longer alone. House after house reveals the same quiet truth. Each family is willing to offer mustard seeds with open hands. Yet when the mother gently explains the condition, every household pauses, then speaks of loss. Some remember children taken too soon by illness. Others recall elders whose lives ended after long years. In some homes, grief is fresh and raw. In others, it has softened with time. But no doorway she crosses has been untouched by death. As the hours pass and her journey extends beyond her village into neighboring ones, her vision begins to widen. She no longer sees herself as a solitary figure wandering in sorrow. In every home, she encounters recognition. Other mothers have cradled still bodies. Other families have known the shattering silence that follows final breath. Her pain, though deeply personal, is not unique. It belongs to the shared human story. By the time evening light settles over the land, she has found no household free from loss. Yet she has found something else entirely. A quiet understanding arises within her. Suffering, while deeply painful, does not isolate us. It connects us to the common condition of all living beings. She returns to the Buddha without urgency or demand. Her child rests peacefully in her arms, but her heart has shifted. She bows deeply and speaks with humility. She asks not for a miracle, but for understanding. She asks to learn how life and death move together, and how love can remain without clinging. Ancient Buddhist teachings say that among all contemplations, reflection on death is the most profound. Not to darken the heart, but to awaken it. The deeper lesson of this story shows that recognizing the universality of loss transforms loneliness into belonging and despair into insight. Why do we feel so alone when facing death, when loss is one of the most shared experiences of existence? Buddhist psychology teaches that suffering multiplies when we believe our pain is uniquely unbearable. When we imagine that no one else could understand, grief becomes heavier, sealed off from compassion. This illusion of isolation cuts us off from healing. When we believe our suffering is singular, we push away the very connections that could support us. We retreat just when closeness is needed most. The Buddha did not dismiss the mother's grief, nor rush her toward acceptance. Instead, he guided her into a lived realization. By sending her from home to home, he allowed her to witness the full landscape of human loss. She saw that families continue living, loving, and finding meaning even after tragedy. Her journey became a meditation in motion. Each conversation softened her heart. Each shared story stitched her back into the fabric of community. Compassion flowed not from words alone, but from recognition. The mustard seed itself holds gentle symbolism. Though tiny, it grows into something strong. In the same way, small acknowledgments of shared vulnerability can blossom into deep wisdom. The Buddha's impossible request was not meant to deny her hope, but to offer a different kind of miracle. The transformation of isolated grief into shared understanding. A Buddhist teacher once spoke of the wisdom of having no escape. The insight that trying to avoid pain often creates more suffering than the pain itself. The mother's original plea reflected a natural wish to escape loss entirely. What she received instead was guidance on how to live with loss skillfully. Her love for her child did not disappear when she accepted his death. It changed form. It learned how to remain without grasping, how to honor connection without denying impermanence. In some Buddhist traditions, practitioners contemplate the suffering of others to deepen compassion. Without knowing it, the mother practiced this path. By seeing her grief mirrored everywhere, her heart expanded rather than collapsed. This does not mean grief should be rushed or minimized. Every loss is specific. Every bond matters. Each ending deserves full acknowledgement. But recognizing the universality of loss prevents grief from becoming a prison. The Buddha's guidance invites what we might call grief with companionship rather than grief alone. When we realize that countless beings have loved and lost before us, pain does not vanish, but it becomes more bearable. The story also reflects our tendency to bargain with reality, to seek exceptions to impermanence. The mother's request for resurrection echoes our hope that faith or devotion might undo what cannot be undone. Instead of reversal, the Buddha offered wisdom, a way to relate to loss with clarity and compassion. Acceptance of impermanence does not diminish life. It deepens it. When we truly understand that nothing lasts, each moment becomes more precious, each relationship more sincere. As you rest now, perhaps you can sense the vast company of those who have walked paths of loss. You may discover that your pain does not separate you from life, but binds you gently to it. The Buddha taught that while all things arise and pass away, awareness rooted in compassion remains. This awareness can hold both love and loss with tenderness. And now, let us drift into another quiet teaching. In the northern mountains of Japan, where autumn paints the world in gold and crimson, a tranquil temple rests among trees. Crisp air carries the sound of leaves as an elderly monk moves slowly across the courtyard. With careful attention, he gathers fallen leaves beneath an ancient maple. Each sweep of his rake forms perfect lines. The leaves, still vibrant, are placed neatly into baskets. His movements are steady, deliberate, and calm. Beyond the temple wall, a Zen master watches in silence. When the monk gestures proudly toward the immaculate garden and asks if it is good, the master smiles gently and says, "Almost. Wait." He enters the courtyard, walks to the ancient tree, and shakes its trunk. Leaves rain down once more, scattering freely across the ground. The master brushes his hands and says softly, "Now it is good." Before leaving, he reminds the monk of an ancient truth. Do not dwell in the past. Do not chase the future. Rest fully in the present moment. This teaching points to our attachment to outcomes, to completion, to control. We often value the finished result more than the awareness brought to each step. The monk had shifted from mindful action to pride in appearance. How often do we rush through our days, focused only on finishing? How often do we miss the warmth of water, the sound of breath, the quiet beauty of simply being present? As you lie here now, there is nothing to complete, nothing to perfect, only this moment, gently unfolding. Movement turns into counting calories instead of sensing breath and muscle. Meditation turns into chasing calm instead of gently witnessing what appears. Again and again, we trade the fullness of now for an imagined reward later. A Zen teacher once said, "You are complete as you are, and still unfolding." This quiet paradox reminds us that acceptance and growth are not opposites. They breathe together. The garden was whole when leaves lay scattered, and it was whole when they were gathered. Both moments belonged to the same passing season. Neither could be held. The deeper teaching is simple and profound. Spiritual practice is not about reaching a final state. It is about meeting whatever is here with sincerity. Whether you rake the leaves or watch them fall, What matters is not the result, but the quality of presence you offer. When attention is complete, even unfinished things feel sacred. When we cling to outcomes, we miss the living texture of the process itself. Our world often praises completion more than awareness. But what if the purpose of raking is not a tidy ground, but learning how to move with impermanence? What if meditation is not meant to deliver enlightenment, but to help you arrive fully in this unrepeatable breath? Tonight, as you notice the urge to finish, resolve, or control, see if you can soften your grip. Allow things to remain slightly incomplete. You may discover that true satisfaction comes not from perfect results, but from perfect attention. The Buddha taught that the mind shapes experience. When we believe we must control everything, anxiety arises. When we trust the rhythm of process, we become participants rather than managers of life. And now, let us drift into another story, one that reveals how innocence and gratitude can transform even the darkest encounters. At a remote river crossing, where waters rushed fast and dangerous, there lived a ferryman known for cruelty. He did not guide travelers out of service, but because isolation gave him power over the helpless. Those who crossed had no choice but to trust him. One day, a gentle monk named Ryokan arrived, seeking passage. The ferryman recognized him immediately. This monk was known for kindness and harmlessness. An easy target. Feigning politeness, the ferryman welcomed him aboard. But once the boat reached the deepest current, he began rocking it violently, laughing as water splashed over the sides. He wanted fear. He wanted pleading. Yet the monk showed none. He remained calm, balanced, open. No resistance. No anger. Frustrated, the ferryman pushed him into the river. Cold water closed around the monk's body. The current pulled strongly. Yet even there, the monk did not fight. He allowed the river to carry him. Something unexpected happened. The ferryman's cruelty cracked. Fear replaced amusement. He realized the monk might truly die. Acting quickly, he pulled the monk back into the boat, using every skill he had to save him. Soaked and trembling, the monk bowed deeply. "Thank you," he said softly. "You saved my life." The ferryman stood frozen. No accusation. No blame. Only gratitude. The Buddha taught that hatred is never ended by hatred. Only by non-hatred does it dissolve. This is an eternal law. The monk did not deny what happened. He chose where to place his attention. Not on the harm, but on the help. Not on intention, but on outcome. This was not ignorance. It was conscious innocence. A deliberate refusal to nourish resentment. We often cling to anger because it feels justified. We prefer being right to being free. But this story shows another possibility. When met with unexpected grace, even hardened hearts can soften. The ferryman saw himself differently in that moment. Not as a tormentor, but as a rescuer. Sometimes people grow into the image we reflect back to them. Gratitude, when unconditional, reshapes reality. It transforms experience without denial. It allows healing without forgetting. As you rest now, consider moments when mixed intentions brought unexpected benefit. What might change if you chose to honor what helped, rather than dwell on what hurt? The Buddha reminded us that in the end, three things matter: how we live, how we love, how gently we learn to let go. As these stories fade, notice the quiet already present within you. This calm was never created. It was only uncovered. Like a rock unmoved by wind, wisdom rests steady amid praise and blame. Now allow your breath to slow. Feel your body becoming heavy and warm. Nothing more is required. You have done enough. You are enough. Rest now.